Good afternoon, Evanston. I'm Paul Zelmazak. I serve the community as the Economic Development Manager. We're here today to basically answer your questions about what Evanston is doing, what we and our partners are doing to help the business community. This is beyond a trying time, and I said in my interview with Evanston Now yesterday, it's really devastating. But there is hope, and we're working already to think of ways that we can help the business community repair itself when this virus passes. So one of the first questions we have today is, what has the city done to support small business? So I'm gonna describe a little bit about what we've done to date, and then I'll ask my colleague Roger Sosa of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce to talk a little bit about the work that he's doing. So in the immediate aftermath of the announcement that we were going into lockdown, we really recognized that we had to eliminate some fees immediately for businesses, liquor taxes for restaurants, things like that. The immediate things that were due that businesses had to pay. We've delayed those payments, so that was an immediate thing we can do. But remember, we're a municipality. We don't have endless resources, and we're going to depend heavily, unfortunately, on the federal government to really help our business with cash infusion. We'll do what we can at the local level to address some of those small business fees and the like, and we're very open to that. But really, from a financial standpoint, we have to kind of ride this out and see where things lie. And secondly, we're doing what we always do, which is to share the love. We're doing everything we can to make sure we get the word out at every level when, if businesses are doing carryout or I guess takeaway, whatever restaurants are doing, we're making sure to get the word out. We initiated the Keep Calm and Carry Out campaign. I'm distributing posters door to door, keeping social distancing when I do it. But it's important that we recognize the businesses that are open and the sacrifices they're making. This is a very tough time. They are doing the best they can. So I'll ask Roger to introduce himself and talk about how he's been deployed by Mayor Hagerty.
Thanks, Paul. I'm Roger Sosa. I'm the Executive Director of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce. I first want to extend from the Chamber, we hope that everyone is well and safe at home with their loved ones. That's the most important thing right now, is to stay safe, preserve your health, make sure you take care of those around you, because this will end someday, and we want to all be there when that happens. In terms of what the mayor has asked me to do, Mayor Hagerty asked me to join the coronavirus task force, as well as chairing a business working group. And we've assembled about 20 folks from the business community, representing businesses from small mom and pop stores all the way to some of the largest organizations in Evanston. And what we're doing is trying to discern the needs that those businesses have, and also communicate to them what's being done at the city level. So this business working group has got really three parts of it. One part of it is advocacy and lobbying, in which we are taking the needs we find and taking them to our legislators and saying, hey, these are the problems that the businesses are having. These are the fires that we need to put out today. And we've communicated a lot to our local and to our federal legislators. We've also have a communications group that is making sure that the message is consistent, clear, and frequent. That what we're finding out from the feds, finding out from the state, and what the city can do, we're communicating that. And finally, and probably most importantly, we're working on what happens when this is over. How do we keep businesses going? We've got a number of the banks in the city involved, as well as other organizations that we've partnered with, other chamber organizations, other statewide organizations that are going to help us bring resources to the community. And that's very important. There are a lot of loan programs out there. The CARES Act just passed. The state has some programs. SBA has some programs. And it's kind of confusing. And one of the things that we're trying to do is help our local businesses figure out how to apply. I just got a message from a restaurant who gave me his sales numbers for this year and when he bought the restaurant, and literally his email was throwing his hands up in the air and saying, help me, or I have to close the restaurant. So we're going to help that guy figure out how to fill out his application, what he qualifies for, to make sure he can do the best he can to keep his restaurant open. So that's what we're doing on the side, on the chamber side of things.
Right. So before we get into the questions and answers from the community, or the questions from the community, I also want to pick up on something that Roger had described as part of the task force. We have two phone calls a week with a larger group of businesses, and then the chamber, the main Dempster Mile, downtown Evanston, the city, Central Street, all the merchant districts. We're talking, if not 3-4 times a day. We're doing all kinds of emails. It's nonstop, and it's 7 days a week. So we're doing the best we can to really try to get a better understanding of all of these resources that are out there, and they're changing rapidly. So what we do, we're at the point now where we've created a checklist, and we're going to distribute that hopefully later today to all of our businesses. And we're going to put it on the Evanston Edge website. That's evanstonedge.com. The Chamber of Commerce, Main Dempster Mile, and Downtown Evanston will all have it on their website. And it'll be a complete list of every resource that we're aware of, and we've got them kind of ranked in priority and by industry group. So you will be able to quickly get through these loans and understand, and these grants, and understand what is relevant to you. Because if you just follow what you're seeing online or in the news, it's overwhelming and you'll be paralyzed. So we think we've come up with a tool that will really help expedite this. And there are there's at least one grant that has a pretty tight deadline, so we need to make sure you pay attention to that. I think it's an April 1st deadline.
That's correct.
So look out for that announcement later. And I also think it's really important that we start to plan now for the recovery, and we've got a really good group of people who are on top of that. So just know the task force, we're working and we're continuing to report to the mayor, and we have report outs to the entire community on this. We're working really hard, not as hard as you, but we are working. So Roger, why don't you go ahead and take the first question?
Yeah, the first question we have is from Claire. She asked, what can be done to support hourly workers in the hospitality industry? They've been hit especially hard. They were the first business to close, the restaurants. So several restaurants have set up GoFundMe pages for their workers, and if you can contribute to those, we ask that you do that. Also, if you want to keep cash in the hands of the restaurants, we suggest you buy some gift certificates for future use. That gives them cash today. They can't recognize it on their books yet, but it does give them actually operating capital, and that's really, really important. Also, if you can find it in your budget, order carryout or delivery from a local restaurant once or twice a week. That'll be a tremendous help for them. If you are in the hospitality industry, Paul mentioned this already, there is a hospitality grant that has a very short application window. In fact, it closes tomorrow on April 1st. So if you're watching this and you are a restaurant or you're in the hospitality industry, you want to go and look online for that hospitality grant and find the link, because it is going to close tomorrow and decisions will be made by the 4th of April as to who will get money. So that you need to get in line on that one. So I would strongly suggest that. In terms of hotels, many of the hotels have either ceased or dramatically reduced operations in order to accommodate perhaps the need for beds for folks who are going to be getting sick, and also because there simply just isn't the revenue to support the kind of operations they have. So they are also going to be in that same boat. What I would suggest is when the all clear goes and you want to have an event, please have an event at one of the local hotels, because we could certainly use the revenue there. Anything else you want to add, Paul?
I think you covered it well. I think, again, a common theme that you're going to hear throughout this conversation is that we're really relying on the federal level. This requires a massive cash infusion. So we'll wait for that to occur. There's some unemployment relief hopefully coming soon through these acts. That'll help too, I think, yeah. Roger. Okay, so a question from D. Hoffman. And I have two questions in a row here. Where can I find a list of restaurants open for delivery or pickup? There's a number of ways to do that. One, you can always just contact your favorite local restaurant and determine what their hours are. I think they are fluctuating these days, ebbing and flowing based on staff, based on ability to get supplies and the like. We also, each of us, again, this will be another common theme, the Chamber of Commerce, Evanston Edge, Main Dempster Mile, Central Street, and downtown Evanston are all maintaining lists. So you can use those as resources. I think Google is fairly up to date. So please, just if you can, if you have the resources, if you're working and you have the ability to do carry out, just check in with your favorite local restaurant. A lot of them have, especially dinner carry out hours. The second question from Joe. There have been GoFundMe pages set up for individual restaurant employees. Is there a way for the city to facilitate something like this for broader distribution to small business employees? It's a great suggestion. Right now, we're recommending that if you want to help kind of a concentrated Evanston kind of response fund, we'd recommend taking a look at the Evanston Community Foundation's Evanston Community Rapid Response Fund. They're highly organized. They have a strong sense of where the greatest need is, so I would recommend that. We'll also, at some point, I think this is a question later on, we'll also try to get a list together of restaurants or businesses that have GoFundMe campaigns active, and we'll list those.
Sounds good. I'll take the next question. What can residents do to support local businesses at this time? I think with many of the local businesses shuttered for being non-essential or to protect their employees, I think one of the best things you could do is shop at that business's website. Almost every one of our local businesses has a website where they will do e-commerce. I would highly suggest you go and purchase things on their website. Again, like the restaurants, if you can buy gift certificates that can be used at a future date, I would buy gift certificates. That helps the local businesses get cash, which is really the main thing you can do. The other thing you can do to support local businesses is to make sure that you're in contact with your federal and state legislators. Like Paul said, this is going to take money, and money from the feds. And the only way we can make sure that happens is if we're loud and we're vocal about what we need at this level, and specifically the aid that is needed for local businesses. So I highly encourage you to contact Senator Durbin, Senator Duckworth, whoever your particular federal representative is, whether that's Jan Schakowsky or if it's Brad Schneider. But I highly recommend that you contact one of those four individuals and let them know, hey, we need help. Get the red tape out of the way. Now's not the time for politics.
That's important, and something I learned, and maybe I was a little naive. You know, we have this very strong voice called the Mayor's Task Force. However, I do think it's important that if you have a concern that you want your legislator to address, it's really important that you make individual calls or send emails, because they literally tally up the requests or the concerns that people have based around issues. So anything you can do to get with your either local, state, or national representative. We have a question from Harris. What can be done to ensure businesses are following social distancing health protocols? Can't stress this enough. This is really important. The governor has declared which businesses are essential and which are not. And it's really important that the businesses that are defined as essential do their part and follow all of the guidelines. And it's also important if you're a shopper or if you're a customer of one of these essential businesses, that you also participate and you keep the social distancing requirements in mind. This is really difficult because we really can't close grocery stores down. We need to eat, and that's a simple concept. But we also know that there are peak times that grocery stores, for example, they're crowded with people. So we have posted online grocery store, some advice to grocery stores, both shoppers and managers of grocery stores ownership, on how they should practice social distancing and other health requirements during this time. Super important. And the only way that we're going to know about it is if you, the constituents, if you report it to us. So you can, I believe you can call 311. You could email me if you'd like, pzalmazak@cityoфevanston.org. and we'll make sure that the proper guidelines are implemented. I think, with the help of my colleague Patrick Degnan, we've created some flyers that we had hoped to get out to grocery stores at the point of sale. We're again, it's just a constant reminder of what we need to do during these tough times. And again, I'm going to repeat, we posted the grocery store guidelines on our City of Evanston COVID-19 page. I know there's a lot of concern out there from grocery store shoppers, especially individuals who are in that high-risk category, who are concerned that proper hygiene and protocol isn't being followed. It's really important that it is followed, and if it's not being followed, let us know so we can get out and report. I don't know if, Roger, if you have anything else to add to that. I think that pretty much covers it.
I was just at a retail store a few minutes before we got here, and their line was spaced 6 feet apart. They had red X's on the floor where you could stand, and I saw somebody who kind of botched that, and they said, "No, ma'am, back to that red X." Yeah. And they had a red line between themselves and the at the checkout counter. So yeah, that's definitely being done.
Sure.
And we're watching, and as Paul said, please let us know, either the chamber or the city know, if you see instances where that's not being followed, because we want to make sure that we reach out to those specific businesses in a gentle way and let them know that, hey, we need to, let's get back to those guidelines. Like Paul said, we can't close the grocery stores. Otherwise we'd have a riot. And no one's really interested in that. We want to feed our people. We want to make sure that everything goes right. So yeah, I think Paul is right on the money with that. Just, it's a matter of social cooperation at this point.
Correct.
Then I'll take the next question, which is what kind of impact will COVID-19 have on Evanston's economy? I think obviously the first thing is there is unemployment. With businesses closing or laying off employees, there's going to be unemployment. That's going to be an increase, and that's without a doubt going to have an impact. But I think there are other things that are going to happen. I think businesses are going to also have to rethink some of their distribution models, how they use technology. There are probably more efficient ways to do things that businesses are going to find. I think Paul probably can agree with me. We've been on a whole lot of teleconference calls in the last 2 weeks. Zoom technology and that sort of thing has just really, really come up. And so what's going to happen is people are going to look for these new ways to do business. So smart business people are going to look at their business models and say, how do I adapt this for the new environment that we're going to be in? How do I make this corona-proof, for lack of a better term? What do I do? Suppose a pandemic now becomes part of the business planning, and I think that's going to change our economy as well. I think there will be opportunities for businesses that want to be in this space to help others plan. I think that will be there as well. But I think there's another big issue, which is capital. The big issue for survival for most businesses is capital. And we know that the business working group that Mayor Haggerty asked us to put together is focusing on making sure all Evanston businesses have capital and the assistance they need, especially technical assistance, because there are things that you're going to have to do now in this environment that are different in terms of how you run your business, how your processes work. And so that's very, very important. So, Paul, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, thanks, Roger. I'm trying not to be too doom and gloom at the moment. I think the impact, we have immediate impacts, which, there's no sales tax being generated. That's going to impact city services. How is that, I'm thinking about my organization. How is that going to play out in the long run? Again, that's something that I think only federal support, that could be something that the community could rally behind and get the government to support municipalities and cities. I also think, and I said this in an interview yesterday, when this first wave of this exposure kind of flattens, as the curve flattens, we're not going to be able to just press play and get back to work as usual. There's going to be a slow buildup. I think people are still going to be in fear. It's going to be a slow recovery, and we have to figure out ways that we can stimulate the economy during that time. And I don't know what that's going to look like. Frankly, my colleagues, the downtown Evanston people, and again, the Chamber, Main Amster Mile, we had already focused, 2020 was going to be the year that we focus on technical assistance for our retailers to help them figure out how to better navigate in this increasing online economy. We were going to work on how to build websites, how to have a better e-commerce presence. This has completely disrupted that, and we predicted that a potential recession was was coming, and how would that impact our small, especially retailers and boutiques. This is it's at a level that we can't even comprehend at the moment. I think we're up. I think the team we have together is so committed to their craft and the work that we do that we're gonna stick it out and help to the best we can. But at the end of the day, it comes down to money. So again, I'm just going to stress that we need as many federal resources as we can possibly get. Had a follow-up question from David regarding health guidelines I want to read. What guidelines are in place for restaurants? How do we know they're taking safety seriously? That's a great question, David. I think there are. Well, I know there are a number of restaurants that have kind of demonstrated and they've outlined what precautions they're taking to make sure that their spaces are healthy, making sure that their chefs and the delivery people are practicing good hygiene. But really, frankly, it's going to come down to you as a consumer letting us know if you're witnessing any violations of whatever codes are out there as it relates to this virus. The CDC has some very strict guidelines on how this operates, and frankly, we don't have the resources from a staff perspective to send a healthcare staff or health inspector staff out to restaurants to do random inspections. We are so focused on trying to flatten the curve right now, and I know that's part of it. We want to make sure that restaurants aren't spreading it as well. So if you see something, you've got to let us know as soon as possible so we can make sure we're getting the word out. And I'll use this as motivation to check in with the health department, and we'll post something on our website about what the requirements are for restaurants and how we're ensuring that they're following those guidelines. Okay. I think I had the next question in addition. This is from David. Can the city help restaurants, businesses adjust their business models, such as providing best practices for packaging, encouraging take and bake meals, setting up new supply chains so restaurants can sell food at grocery stores? Love that suggestion. We had sent out a survey right at the beginning of this to see if there were some kind of more family sit-down restaurants who wanted some technical help with learning how to do carry-out or delivery, and the feedback was they didn't think they needed it. So we're going to continue to check in with them to determine what their needs are. In fact, I think one of the when we send out the COVID checklist later, the resource checklist, we're going to have a survey that's included with it that will ask some questions about what your needs are, and we're going to continue to do that. And don't stop sending suggestions. I think as this evolves, we're gonna have to come up with some new technical assistance models. And I think that'll be part of the recovery, and it touches on a little bit of what Roger said about how the economy kind of restructures itself. And then there's another follow-up question to this. And this is from Jim. What can the city do to help existing businesses adapt to conditions of takeout or delivery without violating health guidelines, relax parking enforcement, allow outdoor cashiers? So I've answered some of that. We have relaxed parking enforcement in our business districts. We're not going to ticket you if you're pulling up at a store and waiting for somebody to deliver food to the curb. We're just not going to do that. The outdoor cashier concept, I know some restaurants have ordered new point of sale or POS systems that will allow them to swipe credit cards at the curb. I know that's happening with some of them. So again, this is going to evolve over, a period of time. This isn't ending tomorrow. We've got, I like to think of it as 60 more days of, and that's not any inside information. I'm just saying, I'm trying to be realistic. There's going to be a way that we're adjusting to the economy, and I think even when you go into, for example, Brothers K, they prefer that you use your phone or a credit card. And you're not able to tip on some of these machines, and they're adjusting that way, because I'd like to be able to tip a barista for being able to fuel my caffeine addiction. So there's stuff like that. So if you have suggestions, please send them in. Roger, do you have anything else to add to that question?
No, I think, well, like you said, technology generally evolves to meet needs. And so there's a need here, and we're going to see the technology evolve to that so that businesses can adapt to these things. I know we're trying as much as we can to let restaurants and businesses know these are the best practices if you're going to go into that line of business. We can lead the horse to water, as they like to say. So we're doing a lot of that, and we hope that the folks are taking us up on that information. So that's kind of where that's all I can add.
Thanks.
We got a couple of things. We got a comment from Simone, and Simone, I couldn't agree with you more. It says, more than ever, time to shop local. Absolutely. If you want to make sure that you keep the local businesses here, then make sure those who are open for business, that you are patronizing them every chance you get, and you're going online and you're shopping at their website. Make sure that it's their website, that it's not some national website. You want to keep the money, keep the dollars local. That doesn't always happen, but yeah, that's the way to do it. There's technology helping you stay local.
Yeah.
We have a question from Brigitte and Candy, and I think I spoke with both of you yesterday regarding this, because this looks like a really familiar question. I'm the owner of a barber shop that was forced to shut down. Where can I go for help? And I think I did share with you some information, but let me repeat that. There are a lot of programs at the state and the federal level that provide assistance, grants, and loans for things like paycheck protection, taking care of your rent, taking care of your expenses. And so what I would ask you to do is start with your local SBA office or your local business lender, because a lot of the local business lenders, I know here in town, Byline Bank and Evanston Community Bank and Trust, they both are connected with the SBA and can help you with that. If you find that you cannot find any more information, I'd ask you to call the chamber office. Even though we're not there, we're listening to our messages on an everyday basis. 328-1500, 847-328-1500, or send us an email at info@evchamber.com, and we'll help you find the right program and get you pointed at the right resources. There are a lot of resources out there that will help you figure out what you need to do. So hopefully that will help you out and get you pointed in the right direction. Paul, anything you want to add to that?
A couple of things. One, I'm disappointed that barbershops are not considered essential. I could probably use a little trim at the moment myself, and I'm hoping that will be available mid-April. I wanted to go back to something brought up earlier from Simone, I think, Roger. Something I really want to stress. We focused a lot on the hospitality industry and restaurants. And I'll try to explain why, and it doesn't mean we're diminishing, retail and boutiques and the like. Restaurants have a lot of employees. They have a lot of kind of low, moderate wage staff, and there's a lot of staff. A typical restaurant will have, I won't even estimate per restaurant, depends on the size, but compared to a retailer, a small storefront, might have one full-time proprietor and then a handful of maybe part-time staff or maybe a full-time staff. So again, not to diminish that, that's really important, but when we're doing triage, you've got to prioritize, and that is kind of how it's played out. Plus, from a community standpoint, there's really a ton of sales and liquor tax associated with it. So how do we pay for those services when we're not receiving those funds? But what I wanted to stress, and I'm not sure if this was Simone from Tony Macaroni or the store on Central Street, and if it was, I appreciate the question. I think it's important, if you're going to order toys from Amazon or some kind of retail good, think about calling your local shop, because while they're not essential businesses, they may be running door-to-door delivery. They may have a website set up where you can order. You can give them a call and order a toy that you'd like, or puzzle, or whatever it is that you're working on. So don't forget that our local retailers, while their doors may not be open, they have ways of getting product to you. And I've seen bookstores doing this, and it's really important. And I know you have time to read right now, so think about that as well. The library is closed. So give that a whirl. I think I had another question just come in. Any regulations for landscaping companies? That was from, I believe it was from Ludolina. Sorry. There are not. You need to practice social distancing on the job site. I think that's common sense, and I think for most landscapers that's happening. I am a little concerned about the drive in the truck. There's you're close to your fellow colleague. I don't know how to address that, but landscape companies are not restricted from doing their work. All right, back to the other questions. I think I've addressed this question from Steve. Is the city working with grocery stores to make sure shoppers and employees are safe? And the answer is yes. And again, report back to us if you're not finding that to be the case. There's a part 2 to this from Peg. If grocery store workers get the virus, will the store close for 14 days till other workers are cleared? And the answer to that is no. There are specific health department protocols guided by CDC. If an employee is determined to have the virus, if diagnosed with the virus, they will go through the same protocol everybody else will go through. And each of the individuals that they've been in close contact with, and there's a definition of what that means. It's within 6 feet for some period of time. It's not a glancing pass. The chances of you getting this from a glancing pass are very, very minimal, according to the health department. This is if you've had extended close contact. So they'll do the interviews and determine who's at risk, and then the store would be responsible for disinfecting that grocery store clerk or stocker or whatever the terminology is, that employee's workstation, make sure that it's clean. But it doesn't require the store to be closed or to go through a deep disinfection. It's really like any other person who they've been in contact with for extended periods of time. Many shops are putting up the plastic glass now, so shoppers aren't exposing the clerk and the other way around. So even during that time where you're checking out at a grocery store, you can practice social distancing to limit your exposure and risk to the grocery store employee. And that's a low risk potential for you as long as you're practicing social distancing. So that's how I would answer that.
Okay. My next question is, what resources are available to help small businesses impacted by COVID-19? I may have answered that already, but there are programs at the state, federal, even the local level, assistance, grants, loans. Like I said, the SBA office is a great place to go, as well as your local lender. Some of the programs and the names, just to make sure that you know, they're called the Emergency Injury Disaster Loan Program. You might hear that referred to as EIDL, and that's an SBA program. There's the Paycheck Protection Plan. That is part of the CARES Act. And there's a lot of other programs. Just to kind of, not to dive too deep into the CARES Act, but the CARES Act that was just enacted at the federal level and signed by the president has a lot of different programs that have sort of been mushed together into one act. And so what's necessary is to really look at that. And unfortunately, it's an 800-page piece of legislation. And so it's complicated. But if you're looking for some specific summaries, get in contact with the Chamber office. We've got some documents to share with you. People smarter than me have taken apart that act and documented it and summarized it so that you can act on that. And if you're, again, looking for help, we can probably connect you with some local attorneys and other resources who have volunteered to help our local businesses find their way through this. So, again, those are the kinds of resources that are available to you. Your banker is out there. There's money available to you. We've got lawyers and other folks who are willing to help you out. As well, we can connect you to some other national resources that are out there. So there's a lot of folks who are willing to help. The problem is that it's kind of a maze right now. And it's kind of overwhelming because so many people have rushed to help. That's a good thing, but at the same time, you kind of pick your way through it. It's kind of overwhelming. So contact the Chamber office or contact Paul, and we'll help you find the right program and the right resource to help you explain that.
Right. Thanks, Roger. You sparked a couple of thoughts for me. Something that we're stressing, and again, when we send out this checklist later, it's really important that you keep an open line of communication with your lenders and also with your landlords. Don't hide from this problem. The landlords, today's March 31st, typically rent's due tomorrow. It's going to be a critical day for our landlords, and landlords are businesses too. I know they often kind of have they have a bad name because they're the landlord, but this is the business they chose, and they're providing space for you. And if you're unable as a business to pay the rent, you need to communicate that and work something out with your landlord. Don't hide from it. Landlords will need to communicate with the banks because often properties are mortgaged or leveraged, and they'll have to work out ways to pay their loans. So it's really important that you keep that dialogue open. It's critical. Again, based on these programs that have been rolled out through the SBA, your banker is going to be a critical point of contact for you. And again, I'm going to reinforce this. The checklist is going to be really helpful for you. The EIDL, the EIDL program that Roger mentioned a moment ago, that's an online application process. You should do that as soon as possible. Every individual who fills out an application on that website qualifies for a $10,000 grant that reportedly gets to you within 3 days. Now, I cannot guarantee that. That's what's being reported through the SBA. So again, take a look at it. I think it's one of the number one things you can do is fill out the application. I understand it takes 2 to 2.5 hours to get through it. There's been a lot of ups and downs and crashes on that website, but stick with it. Don't give up on it. That's the one that's really going to help you in the immediate term to help you recover, to get those funds. And that to me is like the three things you can do right now is EIDL, communicate with your lender and your landlord. And I'm also, if there are any bankers paying attention or on this call, we're going to be working hip to hip with you, and we're going to be really relying on you to help us roll out the SBA programs. I don't know how you're going to do it. We want to work as best we can with you because we know there's going to be a great volume and we know you're going to be under a lot of stress. But we really need your help. And again, thanks for all the work you're doing to stay open and to be helpful. All right, so there was a question from Holly. And I think I referenced this earlier and I'll mention it again. Can the city help to publish a list of GoFundMe sites for Evanston businesses looking for charitable donations to support their staff members who are losing income as a result of the stay-at-home order? Holly, that's a really sweet idea, and like I said earlier, I will do that. And again, the Evanston Community Foundation, kind of centralized source for local funding, would also be a good choice for the community to donate to as well.
Yep. I think we have a couple other ones here that are left. One of them is, how are businesses supposed to receive deliveries during this time? And that's an anonymous question. That has to be done, obviously, using the social distancing protocols, having set up some sort of process with your delivery person that they are not going to be within 6 feet of anybody, that everybody's going to be wearing gloves, masks, that sort of thing. That's going to be a very much an individual case basis depending on the logistics of your particular business. I mean, if you've got an alleyway or a delivery place that people are coming to that can be cleared, that's great. But I think that's going to need to be done on a case-by-case basis. I don't know that there's a lot we can do other than encourage people to say, let's be safe and be careful about how you're interacting with other individuals.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. There's a couple questions I want to take on at once. Marty asked, given that a key expense for small businesses is property tax, has the city had a discussion with Cook County assessors or treasurer's office pertaining to potential relief? Yeah, this is a very difficult question. If without getting into too many details, your tax bill is composed of Cook County taxes, 2 school districts, mosquito abatement district, and the city and sometimes special service areas. So the city controls a really small portion of your total property tax bill. I don't think we can take anything off the table right now, but there is based on the emergency and all of our resources being spent on really addressing the health crisis to flatten the curve, there has been, we can't do a deep dive study on budget impacts and how waiving or decreasing or delaying property tax. We can't determine that at this time. That's something that I'm hearing a lot, and it is obviously one of the biggest expenses of any commercial enterprise. But it is also for residential too. So we need to be very careful about how we address taxes because remember, We could eliminate the non-essential services at the city, and I don't want to define what those are, but I think of the most important: police, fire, health, sanitation, those types of things. There's a cost associated with that, and that's paid with taxes. So we need to be really careful about how we address tax relief, and that's going to come down to, can the federal government help the city fill in for any budget gaps, especially, and we don't want to lay off teachers. It's just a can of worms that would be very difficult to really address. So let's take it one step at a time. I don't think you take it completely off the table, but we're not there yet. I also want to address a question from Greg. He mentioned, and I think he's referencing our new business registration process. He asked, how does it help to charge businesses a new fee of $75? Well, we've waived that fee. It's more important now than it was 3 weeks ago when the City Council approved the business registration program to have every business registered in Evanston. We have no other means of communicating with businesses without an email list or a phone number. We have a very small percentage of our businesses actually documented in Evanston. There's no state guideline or requirement that businesses are registered. So typically what happens is we will license food establishments and any business that's not already licensed by the state of Illinois. And that ends up only being about 500 businesses. We've estimated there are approximately 4,000 commercial enterprises in Evanston, including home-based businesses. We really need a direct communication line with you. And we're not going to charge you a fee in 2020. We'll revisit in 2021 to maintain this list. And again, home businesses are free. They don't have to pay in any case. Bricks and mortar, there was a fee that we've waived. So please, when you get the business registration letter in the mail, they went out last week, please go online, fill out the business registration, do not submit a fee. We've already got it set up where you're not paying a fee. And then you will be able to get the information that is changing so rapidly. We want to get that information out to you. So I don't have any other questions. With that, I would, if there are residents on the line, I'd encourage you to support your local businesses to the extent you can. Please remember, give them a call. Some of them are in their shops with the door closed. They're packing orders for shipment. Visit your local restaurants, pull up at the curb, follow the protocol. We're not going to save every business by doing this, but the ones who are open are keeping people employed. They're providing a good service. I know we're kind of sick of cooking at home, so it's nice to be able to get carry out. So please do what you can, and also remember, communicate with us. And we'll respond to you. Roger, do you have any closing comments?
I think I would echo what you just said, which is communicate with us. If you have issues, please contact the city, contact the chamber. Somebody will try to help you. If we're not the right person, we'll find you the right person. There are a lot of people trying to help right now, which is a great thing. One thing I have to say is I'm very, very encouraged by the spirit of Evanston that I've seen, which is people trying to help each other, people pitching in. When you're on the streets, there are very few people. People are following the social distancing and shelter-in-place guidelines. I think that's terrific. I would just tell everybody, hang in there. This isn't going to last forever. We've got very smart people working on this, trying to find the vaccines, the cures, the testing. That piece of it's kind of out of our hands. All we're trying to do is just keep things going. And if you can shop local, I say shop local as much as you possibly can. And to me, this is always the most important thing. If you're with your loved ones and you're willing to get within 6 feet of them, give them a hug and tell them that you love them, because it probably counts more now than at any other time. So I wish everybody the best, and thanks a lot, Paul, for inviting us to be part of this. And good luck to everybody out there.
Yeah. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Evanston will endure.